Tuesday, Tuesday, 6th of February, year of our Lord 2024, and we're about to get started on a lecture in personal finance. So welcome if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. We should be streaming live. If you would like to leave a comment and let me know you're listening or watching, especially if you would let me know, is the audio okay? Can you see my screen okay? This video is primarily going to be live streamed to the playlist for this semester at the University of Houston. For those of you who are in our personal finance course. So I'm going to jump on over and open the Zoom room and admit some folks. And I'm also, hey Gavin, good to see you. Can you hear me okay? Doing a test, an audio test, getting set up, getting ready. Can you hear me, Gavin? Looks like I am. Yes, great. Thanks, Gavin. Hey, Gavin, are you able to jump in, group me, and just make sure I did I did change the link this week. Last week rather, we had an issue with the link, and it was not showing up in the syllabus had the wrong link. So I did fix that. I fixed it last week after class, but if there's just a few folks in the new link is requiring a passcode. I had to join the link that Herson sent on GroupMe. Okay, well, hey Gavin, are you in GroupMe? Can you shoot this link? I'll shoot the link to you. I'm not sure why it's creating a passcode or requiring a passcode, but there's the link. I just put it, thank you, I appreciate that. I just put it in to the chat. So we'll give everybody a couple of minutes to join. I guess I need to go into my Zoom settings and make sure that anyone who has the link can join, or make sure I publish the passcode. I guess most Zoom meetings have passcodes. I work out with Justin 3 times a week with the group, and it's a super simple way to log into the Zoom meeting, but there is a passcode, so I guess we would have one too. That just hasn't been an issue in the past, but I apologize. So yeah, I did update the link, but apparently I need to fix that too. So technology is fun. So this week we're going to talk about first memories of money. You're going to do a parental interview, and I'm going to wait and talk about that after everybody gets on board with looks like we have some folks waiting. I'm going to admit everybody. Hello, those of you who grabbed the link from GroupMe and joined. I apologize again. Apparently the passcode is a thing that I need to update in my Zoom settings. The link has been updated, corrected, but yeah, so last week that was one of the things I had to do after the meeting, was correct the link. Not really sure what's going on with that, but anyway, I apologize and thank you for your patience. Let's see, I've got a couple of things to do here. Just so you know, this video is going to be posted in the uhplaylist.com. Hopefully that link is working okay for everybody. It's just a redirect. I purchased the domain uhplaylist.com so that every semester when I create a new playlist for each specific semester, it's super easy to make sure we get the right link. So, and if you ever look at a playlist link from YouTube, it's about a mile long with lots of strange characters and whatnot. So anyway, hopefully that's working. I'm looking at the chat box. If you guys would please, as always, when you join the Zoom meeting, just put in your name and the time that you joined. That becomes kind of my way of keeping track of who's in the meeting. Obviously, it's an asynchronous course, so you don't have to be here. But if you are here, I want to make sure I have a record of it. So please do that. Gavin has already confirmed that you can hear me, so I'm assuming you can all hear me. But if you can't hear me, and if you are reading my lips, leave a comment to let me know, or a chat comment. Okay, so I don't see anybody logging in with their name and their the time that you got here, so please do that. Thank you, Laney. I see you're here. Welcome everyone. So I want to get started here, but I'm apologizing again for the fact that there was a passcode that apparently you needed a passcode. Do you guys hey Gavin, do you know what the passcode was? Did you don't, because you got the link directly that I sent here. So I guess you guys, man, I thought if I gave you this direct link, so here's what I'm thinking. This direct link that I just gave you is specific to today's meeting, today's Zoom, I guess. And so it must generate a new link with new lucky charms each time we do a meeting. So I'll work on that again today. I did work on that last week and I thought I got it fixed, but apparently I did not. So I apologize. So it looks like everyone who's in the Zoom waiting room has been let in, and I'm looking to see for the rest of you who are here that got here a few minutes late, put in your name and the time that you joined the meeting. I'd appreciate that. That's how I keep take roll for the folks who are here in the meeting. It also lets me know you're listening. So you could be in a Zoom meeting without paying attention, and you could be watching Netflix. So thank you. I appreciate that, Mavie. And we will get started. We should get started now. Let me put this up. So I want to cover real quick what this week 4, is going to, what your assignment will be. And I'll answer any questions you have. So if you have any questions, feel free to speak up. I can hear you in my speakers when you talk, if you unmute yourself. Also, if you have a question and you just want to post it in the chat, this is your Zoom meeting. So while everyone who's not here is required to watch the video, the folks who are here have, you have the ability to ask questions. And if you have any questions, I would love to answer them. So you're not required to ask questions in the Zoom meeting, but you certainly are encouraged to, and it is something that, in my opinion, it would be a good reason to be in the Zoom meeting, to be able to ask questions. So let me go over this week's assignment real quick. You may have some questions about this week's assignment after I tell you what it is. I will say this, though, that the folks who did last week's assignment, and this is, let me get to the top of this assignment. This was the credit report and credit score, credit and debt. So let me just get rid of this so you can see what I'm looking at. You guys did a great job on this assignment for week 3, so thank you for that. It seems like there really weren't any questions in terms of this assignment. It's a pretty simple, straightforward assignment. You did your credit report, you submitted your credit report, you commented on your credit report. Very few of you actually found surprises, which was a bit of a surprise to me this semester. Usually we have students who find things on their credit report that they were unaware of. And we did have a couple. We had a handful of students this semester who commented on the fact that their credit history was primarily their parents, because their parents put the students on the parents' credit cards. And the intention was to help the student build credit, which it probably works well. And if you remember our class collaboration, the I Love Credit score, basically Dave Ramsey was saying in that whole idea of the I Love Credit score, Dave Ramsey was saying that the credit industry has done such an amazing job convincing you and me and everyone that we have to have good credit scores, that we're willing to do whatever it takes to improve our credit score, when in fact, sometimes the things we do to improve our credit score are really not the best strategies for us to build wealth and eliminate debt. But the folks at the credit bureaus, they're keeping score on you. They're tracking you and your data and your behavior and your activity so that they can make sure they do the best job possible to target you for credit, to sell you the product of credit. And so that's their job. And your credit score is a reflection of how they view you in terms of being an ideal customer for them. So credit is a product, it's not a privilege. On the other hand, it is in our culture, it is has become a bit of a privilege, an entitlement, if you will. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a bit. But anyway, you guys did a great job. I hope you will continue this discipline, this practice, this strategy of getting your free credit report. You can do it 3 times a year. You have 3 credit bureaus will give you free credit reports, TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax. And so you can do that 3 times a year for free. You can just put it on your calendar and do your free credit report. So that was the whole idea pretty much of last week's assignment, and you guys again did a great job. So I don't see any questions about that. So I'm just going to move on to this week's assignment. And this week's assignment is a little bit more challenging. It's going to take a little bit more effort, a little bit more time, and most of all, it's going to take some attention to detail, some thought, some emotional commitment on your part. So first thing I want you to do is I want you to just think about your first memories of money. So if you are, if you recall last week, I think it was last week I mentioned that every lecture, in every Zoom meeting, I'm going to share with you our secret class collaboration, and I am stealing your opportunity at the moment to ask the question, what is this week's secret class collaboration element? Because if you ask that question in the chat, it's just a fun little way to keep you engaged, and it helps me have a smile every once in a while. I have a student who says, "Hey, Professor Munchback, what is this week's class collaboration?" Because each week and each Zoom meeting, I'm going to tell you what is this week's class collaboration. So this week we have one, and it does relate to credit and debt, and it is going to be this. So I'm going to talk about the assignment, your first memories of money, and a parental interview. Talk about that in just a minute. But the secret class collaboration conversation is, what about student loan forgiveness? So that is a thing that has come up recently with the current president, and this is an election year. And so one of the things I want you to think about, one of the things I want you to just talk about and share with me and with your classmates, either in the comments below if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, or if you're in Money Study Group, that's a less public way to share your class collaboration. But this week's class collaboration is all about student loan forgiveness. What do you think about that? How do you feel about living in a culture where we have certain laws, certain expectations, certain mores, values, and all of a sudden one guy in the White House can say, "Hey, we're going to scratch that, and we're going to say to all these people who could potentially vote for me that you don't have to pay back your student loans. Now, if you're a student who has a pile of student loans, I suspect, and this is an assumption, and you know what happens when people assume. So this is an assumption on my part because I was a college student. I did have student debt. It took me 10 years to pay it off, but I paid off every penny of it. But I think if someone would have offered to take that student loan and forgive it for me, I would have been like, hey, I like that guy. So I'm just curious, how do you feel about that? And have you thought about the ramifications of having people across the country from every different level of economics? Because student loan forgiveness was not just for people who couldn't afford to pay their loans. This is mostly for people that had a ton of student loans that they acquired through advanced education, and many of them are actually employed in the business, in the industry that they studied to be in. So they're making pretty good money, and if you're working at McDonald's, your taxes, or maybe you're a waiter at Carrabba's, but regardless, these people who could be considered on the upper end of the scale because they were able to take advantage of higher education, those people are going to be receiving a benefit. This is called redistribution of wealth. Those people who have the student loans forgiven are going to receive a benefit from all of the rest of us who don't have student loans. So whether you have a lot of student loans or not, and I know most of you have done a great job of managing your debt, most of you don't have a pile of student loans. But if you do, or if you don't, I still want to know what you think about student loan forgiveness. So, by the way, I want to just tell a quick story about my first semester teaching personal finance. In that first semester of teaching personal finance, I had a student who came to me after class. It was either the first class or the second class, and I could tell that this young man was under some stress. And as soon as he met with me, we went for a walk down the hallway and got a coffee, and he just shared his story with me. And it was my first semester to teach, so I was very interested. I like people. I like hearing stories. I like to get to know people, and I'm pretty open and honest. And so I have the opportunity on a regular basis to kind of be a coach. And in this role as a professor of personal finance, that happens a lot, to be the person who receives a call. Hey, I've got a question. I'm working on some issues. And so that is something that happens to me a lot, and it happened to me in the first semester with this student. But his issue was he wanted to talk to me about how he had accumulated, and this was 12 years ago, and at the time it was a lot of money, $125,000 in student loans. And the reason was because this student was wrestling with some behaviors, some addictions, drank too much, spent way too much money at the bars. He also had changed his major multiple times, and so instead of finishing college in 4 years, which is what his plan was, it took him over 5 years. But he was ready to graduate. It was a spring semester just like this, 2012, and he was going to be graduating in May, and he's sharing his story with me. And so it was painful, and it scared me because, again, this was one of the first students that I actually engaged with as the professor here, and in my role as the instructor for personal finance. It was very interesting to me, but very unnerving to think that students in general were carrying that kind of loans, that level of debt for college. And especially, like, his story's pretty clear. He didn't really have any serious purpose in accumulating all that. It was just a matter of going to college, partying way too much, having no real plan and no real purpose, and just keeping doubling down and spending and putting on more and more debt. I haven't kept up with this young man. If you're listening, If you're watching on YouTube, I know you know who you are. And maybe you're not this specific student, but you're a student who had that situation. I'd love to hear what you think about student loan forgiveness. And again, my assumption is that if you were that student, you would be on your knees thanking God for this guy in the White House who's willing to do whatever it takes to help people, no matter where they are, no matter what their situation is. Maybe they have a great job and they can afford to pay that loan, but this guy in the White House would love to eliminate that. And it seems to me, this is my opinion, I'm curious about yours, it seems to me in a culture with laws and with certain values that that's kind of political. And if it is, which I don't mean to be a cynic, but if it is, if the guy in the White House is doing this to try to win your vote, I'm really curious how you feel about that. Because this mountain of debt that we have at the United States, it's over $30 trillion now. It's gone up like $2 trillion every 6 months. It's going up $1 trillion every 90 days. It's insane. It's one day going to be a catastrophe, the debt that we have as a country. And so all of this money that we give away and we spend, we give away to people who come into the country that are really not here legally. We're giving them free money to spend and inviting more people to come. All of these policies, all of these issues that accumulate national debt in an exponentially faster way, all of those things, they're not going to be on, well, you could blame us, the older folks, for letting this happen, but I'm just really, really curious, and I'm somewhat concerned, not somewhat. It's really a concern, and I have a certain level of internal sense of urgency, if you would, about the economics that I'm seeing and the way that things are happening. And it's an election year, so I think it's a good time to think through and talk about some of these issues. And from your perspective, I'm really interested to know how you feel about that. So that's this week's class collaboration. And as always, I love reading your assignments and learning and understanding how you think about money, how you think about things. And so this week's class collaboration and this week's, my iPad decided to go to sleep. This week's, I have an issue. I think I have a cheap wire in my iPad, maybe. I'm not sure. But I keep losing the connection. So you should be seeing my iPad. That's my iPad. And it's plugged into my MacBook. And it works really well when it works. So anyway, this is this week's assignment. There is a post, as usual. I put the link to the post that you're seeing now in the video. So when you go to the video in your playlist, which again is easy to find, just go to uhplaylist.com. And it will take you right to this semester's playlist, and you will see this title. Should be the title of the video. It's not there right now. If you're looking right now as we're doing this live stream, you won't see it because I have to, after we finish the live stream, my first assignment is to go into the YouTube channel. And this is the YouTube channel. It's at Jim Munchback. But anyway, that's where we have this playlist, and that's where you'll find this video, and that is where you will find a link to this post. So if you want to see what I'm seeing, that's where you'll see it. So here's your assignment. Your first assignment is pretty simple. I want to know, what are your first memories of money? So think about it like this. Let me get rid of that so you can see. This is a question, by the way, that I ask clients. I've been asking clients this question for many years. The question is your first memories of money. And the reason the question, in my opinion, is interesting, there are lots of reasons. But put yourself in my shoes for a minute, okay? Assume that you are a financial planner. And your job is to meet with people and help them kind of clarify what their purpose is in terms of managing money. Your job as a fiduciary, as a financial planner, is to help people make wise choices with money. That's your job. That's what you try to do. And you want to do it really well. And let's just say that you're like me and you have an interest. When I went to college, I studied psychology and sociology. And so I did not study political science, but there we go again. Let me just get this up instead. I don't know why I keep losing this, but I did. So your job is to help people. You're a financial planner. And I happen to be interested in psychology and sociology, and it's just interesting to me. I did not study political science, but I would have loved studying political science. So your job now, again, is to be a financial planner and to help people. What would you do? How would you do that? How would you extract the information from the people that you're trying to help in this first meeting where you're getting to know them? You're getting to know what their goals are, what their objectives are. One of the things I do is I ask the question, what's your first memories of money? And this question may not be as potent or as revealing or as helpful for you if you're 20 years old as it is if you're 50 years old. I don't know, but I do know, I don't know how it is going to impact you, but that's your assignment. To think about, talk about, and share your story about your first memories of money. Maybe it was the first time you got money under your pillow from the tooth fairy. Maybe it was, I got to tell you a story. I wish I had a picture. I should have a picture. Let me see if I can find a picture of my grandson, Caleb. My grandson, I can't find it right now. There's too much stuff going on here, but my grandson Caleb, he's pretty awesome. He's 5, and we went on a cruise. We were out of the country in Mexico, you recall, and while we were there, his dad bought him a necklace with a real shark tooth in the necklace, and it was like most of the things you buy on a cruise. Or was it not even on the cruise? It was on one of the excursions in Cozumel, Mexico. But it was cheap. It wasn't cheap. It was kind of expensive, but it wasn't well made. It was made in Mexico, and it was made for tourists. And so you know how that is. I hope you know how that is. So anyway, Caleb took this thing home, and naturally, being a 5-year-old boy, he's quite athletic and quite rambunctious, and of course, the tooth came out of the necklace. So he's got a necklace. We still have the necklace. Lovey, that's his grandmother. That's my wife, Connie. We call her Lovey. She is wearing the necklace today. Doesn't have a tooth in it. But Caleb, this brilliant 5-year-old, took the tooth and he put it under the pillow, expecting that the tooth fairy would show up and give him some money. The problem was he put it under the pillow on the cruise ship the last night of the cruise, and then we had to get off the ship. So, that could be one of Caleb's first memories of money. I don't know, but we'll see. 10 years, 15, 20 years from now, we'll see if he remembers that. But my question and your assignment is, what is your first memories of money? Maybe it's your first paycheck. Maybe it was the first time you got a paycheck and realized that they took taxes out of your paycheck. My first memory of money, one of them is my mom was very distressed because she was the one who paid the bills. My dad worked, my mom didn't work. We had 4 kids living in this trailer in a trailer park. If you've ever been to a trailer park, I lived in one, I grew up in one, and in the trailer park there is all of the mailboxes are lined up. And so that's how you go get the mail. You go to your mailbox, you grab your mail. But my mom was very upset because she didn't have enough money to pay the bills. And she went to the mailbox and there was a stack of bills, but there was no checks. Imagine that. And I was there with her, and I remember seeing my mom be so upset that she cried. And I was like 4 years old, I guess, at the time. I just remember wanting to rescue my mom and fix her problem. I went to the mailbox, but I didn't know which one was ours. I just went through mailboxes and I looked for something that looked like money. And I was going through the mailboxes looking for money, and the mailman showed up. I think it was the mailman. Some showed up and took me to the office to report me to the authorities. Didn't know it was a federal crime, but I remember that. I remember getting in trouble for going to a mailbox, trying to find money because I wanted to help my mom. So that was one of my first memories of money. I've got lots and lots of memories about money when I was very young. And here's why it matters. Here's why it matters, your first memories of money. And before I get into why it matters, let me first see if I can get, oh, look at that, my iPad came back. So you're going to do a parental interview. That's the second thing you're going to do. And I'm going to talk about this for a few minutes, but I want you to know that this question, your first memories about money, isn't just for you. You're going to give me your first memories about money, but you're also going to ask the person you interview about their first memories of money, okay? So I just set the table for you to understand kind of what we're trying to get. And the reason this is important for an interview, if you want to understand someone's perspective, their kind of field of view about money, if you want to understand how they think about money, how their behavior related to money, where it came from, if you want to understand that, it's the best question there is. What's your first memories about money? So I want you to interview. It's called a parental interview for a reason. So if you decide you want to interview your roommate, that's great. You just won't get any points for that assignment, okay? So listen to me. The parental interview is designed for you to have an interview with a parent. Now, you can interview an uncle, you can interview a grandparent, an aunt, an uncle, but not a roommate, not a friend, not someone in your same age group. That's not how this works. So your interview with this person, hopefully in your family, is designed to do a couple of things. And let me just share a couple of the things that this interview is designed to do. Number one, it's designed to help you learn, because I want you to learn from other people's mistakes and from other people's success. So that's the main thing I want you to do in this interview is I want you to learn. And so what I want you to do in this interview is, first of all, think about who you want to interview. So the second part of this interview, the second benefit, the second outcome that I want to highlight is not just you learning something in the process. That's huge. That's really what it's for. But secondly, it's an opportunity for you to identify someone that you look up to in your family, grandparent, aunt, uncle, parent, someone that you respect, that you recognize did some things that may have been difficult. And maybe they made mistakes. Maybe they did things great. That doesn't matter. But here's what does matter. What matters is that you kind of know going into this interview that you're going to ask some questions that could be very challenging. They could be difficult. They could be emotionally challenging. You could be uncovering or kind of bringing up memories from the past that could be very painful for the person you're interviewing. And that's okay, because by you selecting this person to interview, I want you to set the table and help them understand in the interview that you chose them. You selected them because you want to learn from their story. And I promise you, whoever you go to in your family, and you set the table in that way with respect and consideration and a genuine curiosity to learn from them, if you do that, this experience will be very good for you and for them. And it's very important that you recognize this interview is not just another assignment. I love to read your articles after you do this interview. But I really want to make sure you understand that when you do this interview, you have to be respectful and aware that it could be difficult, it could be challenging. And I want you to be ready for that. I want you to be prepared for that. I want you to be present with the folks that you meet with. You can do it by phone, by Zoom. Best way to do it is go have a cup of coffee, go for a walk. I have, in my family, we have Uncle Hank. Hank was the guy. He passed about 3 years ago, same year as my dad passed. I had 3 family losses in the same 2 months. My Aunt Doris, my Uncle Hank, and my dad. But Uncle Hank, he's the guy. When we got married, I took my wife to Bowling Green, Kentucky. That's where my mom's family was from. So my mom's side of the family, Bowling Green, Kentucky, and they're all there in Bowling Green. That's where my grandma and grandpa lived. And so I took my wife there to meet everybody. And when she met Uncle Hank, he was married to my Aunt Lorraine. And when my wife met Uncle Hank, she knew this is the guy to look up to. This is the guy today, if I was a student in your shoes, he'd be the guy I would want to interview. Every time we had a challenging issue, my wife, Connie, would always ask, what would Uncle Hank do? I mean, he was that guy in the family, and we miss him terribly. But that was the guy that I would interview. In fact, I did interview Hank. He grew up on a pig farm. Now, if you read my book, Make Your Money Count, I say it's a cow farm because my editor thought that would be more appealing than a pig farm. But the truth is, he grew up on a pig farm. They made sausage. It was all about the pigs. And so when I asked Uncle Hank his first memory of money, we went for a long walk, beautiful day in Bowling Green, Kentucky, out in the country. And when I asked Uncle Hank his first memory of money, his answer surprised me, but it was very, very helpful. He told me a story about how he was, as a young boy, he came home from school and his dad was at the kitchen table and his dad was crying. And Hank had never seen his dad cry. And so he knew something was drastically wrong. And what had happened is Uncle Hank, his dad, was a pig farmer. And the way that business worked is every year they would take their pigs and someone would come and offer them money, pay them money, and then take the pigs. It was a one paycheck a year kind of business. And that one paycheck obviously made all the difference in terms of the family finances. And so in that 1 year, this gentleman, Uncle Hank's dad, had done a transaction with a pig broker. That's the guy who comes with a contract and makes a deal to buy your pigs. And the guy signed the contract. And when he did, he signed the contract. Uncle Hank's dad signed the contract. And this guy, he gave him a check, but the check was not a good check. It was a total scam. And they lost all the money. The guy picked up the pigs, left a check, and took the pigs, and now Uncle Hank's dad had nothing for the whole year. It was a total scam. And so Hank's telling me this story about how he experienced his father go through this epic challenge that year and how he watched that. Now, here's something I learned about Hank. Hank became one of my best clients in wealth management. He was kind enough to hire me when I went to work on Wall Street at Morgan Stanley in the wealth management department. And so I asked this question to Hank and his wife, what's your first memory of money? But in Hank's situation, that first memory told an amazing story about Uncle Hank, who he was, how he thought about money, how he behaved with respect to money. And so it's such an important in my opinion, if you're doing what I do, if you're trying to get to know someone in terms of their goals, their objectives, their aspirations, and more importantly, their behavior, how they think about money, this question, what's your first memory about money, is a really good way to set the table and get them to share. Sometimes the memories are really funny and fun and interesting and good, but sometimes, like Uncle Hank, they stir up some serious stuff. So be ready for that. So Uncle Hank's story helped me understand, knowing Uncle Hank the way I do, he's super, super frugal. He save, 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 invest, invest, invest. You may know someone like that, maybe in your family, who is frugal. They make wise choices with money. But if you get underneath that and you figure out why, what are they thinking? What are they feeling? Why are they doing what they do? You could discover, like I did with Hank, that it was motivated by fear. And Uncle Hank told me, he said, I know I am way too frugal. And in that moment, on that walk, he told me, here's something I've decided to do. I'm going to invest in a piece of property on the Barren River Reservoir, and I'm going to build a beautiful house, a lake house. And that house, the lake house in Bowling Green on Barren River Reservoir, is going to be for the family, to make memories, to enjoy one another, because that's what he valued. That's what Hank valued. That's what his wife valued. And that's what our family, as a great big group, valued. So we have spent some amazing vacations in that lake house, which was Hank's vision. And he knew that doing that was kind of good therapy for himself, because he had this way of dealing with money that it looked healthy. If you were looking at Hank and his financial situation, you would say, the dude is a rock star. And he was amazing, financially great shape, but in his heart and in his way of behaving with money, there was an issue. His frugality was from this sense of scarcity instead of abundance. Even though he had abundance, he didn't experience abundance. He experienced never having enough. And so that is the story of Hank. I don't know what your story is going to be. I don't know who you're going to choose, but I can't wait to read your articles. So that's the second part of your assignment. You also have a quiz. As usual, you have a quiz in Money Study Group. And then the secret, and there's a video here, First Memories. I may have told that story in this video about Uncle Hank. If I did, you can watch it at double speed. You know that, right? If you watch a YouTube video, you can hit the little gear icon and you can play it back at double speed. And you can listen at least twice as fast as I can talk. So I would do that if I were you. Let's see. So that's it. The class collaboration, we've already talked about that. It's about student loan forgiveness. How do you feel about that? What are your thoughts? And I'm not trying to be political. I'm trying to get you to think about an issue that could be, if my iPad's acting crazy, beeping at me. If you are, whether you vote or not, I hope you do. I hope you vote. And I hope you think about why you're voting for who you're voting for. But from an economic standpoint, if you're a young person in America and you're a citizen and you have the right to vote, you should vote. But you should vote with some sense of purpose. You should understand who you're voting for and why, because there are some serious issues out there that you will be left with. I will die and I will move on to life after death. I will not be here as long as you. And your parents won't be here, your grandparents won't be here. All of the people who benefited from this amazing economy in this amazing country, we won't be here. And some of us will leave some money behind for some of you, and you'll have a lot of money because of our hard work. But your opportunities moving forward in this culture of consumerism with inflation where it is, and just know this, inflation, increasing prices, it comes from government debt, okay? Just trust me on that. Do your own research, but just know that the more the government spends, the more stuff costs. And this government is spending like drunken sailors. And it's worse today than it's ever been in history in any country on the planet in history. And it doesn't normally end well. And so I'm not trying to scare you, but I am trying to make you think, because if you have the opportunity to vote, you have an opportunity to kind of make your vote count. And when it comes to things like student debt forgiveness or giving money to people that flood into the country without permission, without going through the proper channels, those issues are expensive. Giving away free health care to everybody, that's expensive. I'm not saying it's the wrong thing to do, but it's not being paid for. We're just adding more and more and more and more debt to the national debt. And so I'm not even going to show you the U.S. debt. I should show you the U.S. No, I'm not going to do that. You can look it up. Just Google U.S. debt clock. Just look at that bad boy. Anyway, that's my little sermonette, I guess. But it is your secret class collaboration that I want you to think about, and I want you to comment on and share. So I'm looking at the chat now to see if we have in the Zoom meeting any questions, and I'm not seeing any questions. So I'm going to go ahead and call it a lecture. Let's see. I'm going to call that a day. I will try to figure out what's going on with the Zoom link and make sure that you guys have the passcode. And I apologize again. If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, thank you. Hit the like button if you will. And if you want to use Facebook or YouTube to leave your comment, that's awesome. Do that. I read those comments. I appreciate your comments. Just take a screenshot and pop that into your article and you'll be good to go. So those are your four basic things you're going to do. What's your first memory of money? Number one. Number two is you're going to do that parental interview. Number three, you're going to do that quiz in Money Study Group. And then number four, you have some other class collaboration elements that you're welcome to answer. I always like to see those, and I encourage you to do that. But there is one specific one that I will be looking for this week as I grade your assignments, and that is your comments about, about student loan forgiveness. So that's going to be a wrap. I'm going to end it there unless I see any questions, which I don't see in the Zoom room. Thank you guys for coming. Again, thanks if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to end the broadcast now. I'm going to try to end the broadcast now.